Quartermaster Zethklar ran his crystalline fingers along the inventory sheet for the third time. The numbers did not change. 3 containers of industrial lubricant missing, 2 bottles of metal polish gone, 4 cleaning compounds vanished without explanation. His translucent blue skin flickered with orange stress patterns as he checked the storage bay again. The Harmony Base research station floated in the cold darkness around Kepler 442, a massive gas giant with swirling purple and gold clouds. Inside the station, beings from 6 different worlds worked together, studying the strange energy readings that came from the planet below. Everything ran on strict schedules and careful resource management. Supplies took months to arrive from the nearest trade routes. Zethklar had been quartermaster for 8 years. Nothing ever went missing on his watch. The Vraxians were known throughout the galaxy for their precision and order. His own people had built the station's inventory systems. Every bolt, every drop of fuel, every piece of equipment had its place and purpose. He pressed the communication panel with one clawed finger. "Commander Murphy, please report to Supply Bay 7 immediately." Jake Murphy was in the middle of his morning coffee when the call came through. The dark-haired human pushed back from his desk and grabbed his uniform jacket. As the human liaison officer, he dealt with problems between the different species on the station. Most days, that meant explaining why humans needed so much coffee, or why they insisted on decorating their quarters with pictures of their families. The walk to Supply Bay 7 took him through the main corridor, where crew members from different worlds passed each other on their daily routines. A group of tall, gray-skinned Altarians discussed atmospheric readings in their musical language. 2 furry Kitherans hurried past, their cat-like ears pressed flat against their heads. The Kitherans were the newest arrivals on the station, refugees from a world that had been destroyed when their sun went unstable. Jake found Zethklar standing in front of an open storage container, his stress patterns now a deep red color. The Vraxian held up the inventory tablet. "Commander Murphy, we have a serious problem. Multiple cleaning supplies are missing from secure storage. This represents a significant breach of station protocol." Jake looked at the list. "Industrial lubricant, metal polish, various cleaning compounds. Any signs of forced entry? Security alerts? None. The storage bay shows no unauthorized access. The containers were simply empty when I conducted morning inventory. Could it be a computer error? Maybe the supplies were moved to another bay?" Zethklar's crystalline features hardened. "I have checked every storage location twice. The supplies are gone." Jake rubbed his chin. Theft was almost unknown on multi-species stations. The different alien cultures all had strong codes about taking things that belonged to others. "I'll start an investigation. Can you give me a timeline of when the supplies were last confirmed present?" 48 hours ago, all items were accounted for. Yesterday's inventory was conducted by my assistant, who reported everything normal. This morning I discovered the shortage. As they talked, Lisa Carter appeared in the doorway. The maintenance chief was a stocky woman with grease-stained coveralls and short brown hair. She carried a toolkit in one hand and a confused expression on her face. "Jake, I need to talk to you about something weird that's been happening." "What kind of weird?" Lisa glanced at Zethklar, then back at Jake. "The human crew's personal gear has been getting cleaned. Really, really well cleaned. Like impossibly clean." Jake frowned. "What do you mean?" "Pete Williams's toolkit was polished to a mirror shine this morning. Amy Foster found her work boots cleaned and treated with some kind of leather conditioner that made them look brand new. My own wrench set was organized and polished overnight. The weird thing is, none of us did it." Zethklar's stress patterns shifted to yellow, indicating confusion. "You were saying someone is cleaning your equipment without permission?" "That's just it," Lisa continued. "It's not just cleaning. It's like professional-grade maintenance. Pete's tools were not just clean, they were properly oiled and adjusted. Amy's boots had the laces replaced with new ones that were somehow the exact right color and length." Jake felt a strange suspicion forming in his mind. "Lisa, when did this start happening?" "About a week ago. At first we thought maybe one of us was doing it as a joke or a favor, but nobody admitted to it. Then it kept happening. Every few nights someone would wake up to find their gear perfectly maintained." The 3 of them stood in silence for a moment. Zethklar's patterns had shifted to deep blue, indicating intense thought. "Commander Murphy," the Vraxian said slowly, "do you believe these 2 events might be connected?" Before Jake could answer, Dr. Kevin Torres appeared in the corridor outside. The xenobiologist was a thin man with dark skin and intelligent eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He carried a tablet filled with behavioral notes about the station's various species. Jake, perfect timing. I wanted to talk to you about the Kitharan refugees. Specifically the cubs, what about them? Kevin stepped into the supply bay and lowered his voice. I've been observing some interesting behavior. The young ones have been very active during the night shift, moving around areas they don't normally have access to. Lisa raised an eyebrow. Define areas they don't normally have access to. Maintenance corridors, primarily. Also some storage areas. Nothing forbidden exactly, but unusual for cubs who are supposed to be sleeping during those hours. Jake looked between Kevin, Lisa, and Zethklar. The pieces were starting to form a picture, but it was a strange picture that didn't quite make sense yet. Kevin, what can you tell us about Kitharan cub behavior? Specifically, how they interact with authority figures or potential mentors. The xenobiologist consulted his tablet. Interesting question. On their homeworld, cubs would often present gifts to adult Kitharans they wanted to join their family groups. Small tokens, usually polished stones or carefully prepared food items. What kind of gifts? Lisa asked. Items that showed care and effort. The cubs would spend considerable time making sure their offerings were perfect. It was their way of proving they would be valuable members of the group. Jake felt the pieces clicking together. Missing cleaning supplies. Mysteriously maintained human equipment. Kitharan cubs moving around at night. Kevin, would these cubs recognize humans as potential authority figures? Absolutely. Humans have been helping their families since they arrived. The cubs would naturally want to integrate with what they perceive as the dominant pack on the station. Zethklar's patterns shifted to bright green, indicating sudden understanding. You believe the cubs are taking cleaning supplies to maintain human equipment as some form of gift-giving behavior? It would explain everything, Jake said. The missing supplies, the perfectly maintained gear, the cubs moving around at night? Lisa shook her head in amazement. They've been sneaking around cleaning our stuff because they want to join our group? That's my theory. But we need to prove it before we can address the situation properly. Jake looked at each of them. A Vraxian quartermaster concerned about missing supplies, a human maintenance chief puzzled by mysterious help, and a xenobiologist who understood alien behavior better than anyone on the station. All right, here's what we're going to do. Tonight we set up discreet surveillance in the maintenance areas. If I'm right, we'll finally solve both mysteries at once. The surveillance equipment was set up by evening. Lisa had positioned small cameras in 3 maintenance corridors and near 2 supply storage areas. Jake reviewed the footage feeds from the security office, while Kevin waited nearby with his behavioral notes about Kitharans. At Oro 200 hours, the first movement appeared on screen. A small shadow slipped through maintenance corridor C, moving with careful, practiced steps. The figure was too small to be an adult of any species on the station. Jake adjusted the camera angle and enhanced the image. There, he whispered to Kevin. Lower left corner. A young Kitharan cub, probably no more than 10 years old in human equivalent, crept along the wall. The cub carried something in its small hands, but the lighting was too dim to see clearly. Its large, pointed ears twitched constantly, listening for any sounds of approaching adults. That's Kirish, Kevin said quietly. She's the youngest of the refugee cubs. Her parents are Nixasara and Veltar. They watched as Kirish approached a maintenance panel where Pete Williams had left his toolkit after the evening shift. The cub set down what she was carrying and began working on the tools. Her movements were careful and precise, almost ritualistic. Look at her technique, Lisa said, joining them at the monitors. She knows exactly what she's doing. The cub was indeed working with surprising skill. She cleaned each tool individually, applied some kind of polish, and arranged them in perfect order. Her small hands moved quickly but carefully, treating each piece of equipment like something precious. This is definitely gift-giving behavior, Kevin noted. See how she pauses between each tool? She's putting thought and care into every action. After 20 minutes, Kirish finished with Pete's toolkit. She gathered her supplies and moved deeper into the maintenance area. The cameras tracked her to another location where Amy Foster had left her work boots. Unbelievable, Lisa muttered. She's got a whole route planned out. The cub repeated her careful process with Amy's boots. She cleaned them thoroughly, applied some kind of conditioning treatment, and even replaced the worn laces with new ones that perfectly matched the original color. Where is she getting the replacement laces? Jake wondered aloud. Kevin consulted his tablet. Catharans are natural scavengers and crafters. She probably found discarded materials and modified them. Their species has always been very resourceful. They continued watching as Kirish made her way to 3 more locations. Each time she performed the same careful maintenance routine on human equipment. Each time she treated the work like a sacred duty. At 400 hours, a second cub appeared on the cameras. That's her brother, Zachlin, Kevin identified. Slightly older, maybe 12 in human years. Zachlin was carrying a larger container of cleaning supplies. He went directly to a section where several humans had left personal items after their shifts. Unlike his sister's careful approach, Zachlin worked with determined efficiency. He was clearly more experienced at this night routine. "How long has this been going on?" Lisa asked. Jake checked the security logs. "According to the timestamps, we first reported mysteriously clean equipment 8 days ago. But look at their confidence level. This isn't new behavior. They've probably been doing this since they arrived on the station," Kevin agreed. The cubs would have needed time to observe human routines and identify the best opportunities. A third figure appeared on the monitors. This cub was medium-sized, moving with careful stealth between the areas where his siblings worked. "Tickler," Kevin said, "the middle child. He seems to be acting as a lookout." Indeed, Ticklar positioned himself where he could see both his siblings and the main corridor. His large ears constantly moved, tracking every sound in the area. When an automated systems check caused a brief noise, all 3 cubs froze until they were certain no adults were approaching. "This is organized," Jake realized. "They've developed a system." The cubs worked for another hour. Jake estimated they had cleaned and maintained equipment belonging to at least 8 different humans. Each item received the same careful attention, the same precise treatment. At 500 hours, the cubs began packing up their supplies. They moved quickly now, gathering containers and tools with practiced efficiency. Within minutes, they had vanished back into the residential areas of the station. "Well, that confirms our theory," Lisa said. "The question is, what do we do about it?" Jake leaned back in his chair. The situation was more complex than simple theft. These cubs were trying to integrate with what they perceived as their new pack structure. They were following their instincts, not breaking rules out of malice. "Kevin, what happens if we simply stop them? Tell them they can't take supplies anymore?" The xenobiologist looked troubled. "That could be psychologically damaging. For Ketheran cubs, having their gifts rejected is equivalent to being rejected from the family group. It could cause significant emotional trauma. But we can't let them keep taking supplies," Lisa pointed out. "Zethklar is already stressed about resource management." "There's another issue," Jake said slowly. "The humans who are receiving these gifts don't know about them. We're accidentally participating in a cultural exchange that we don't understand." Kevin nodded. "That's a good point. In Ketheran culture, accepting a gift creates a social bond. By using their cleaned equipment, the humans are unknowingly signaling acceptance of the cubs into their pack structure. So the cubs think they're successfully joining our group," Lisa said. "And we think we're just lucky that someone is mysteriously maintaining our gear." "Exactly. It's a cross-cultural misunderstanding, but one that's accidentally working for both sides." Jake stood up and paced around the small security office. This wasn't a simple problem with a simple solution. The cubs were fulfilling a psychological need while providing genuine value to the human crew. But they were also taking resources without permission and operating outside normal station protocols. "We need to talk to their parents," he decided, "and to Zethklar. Everyone needs to understand what's actually happening before we can figure out how to handle it." "The adult Ketherans might be embarrassed," Kevin warned. "In their culture, cubs taking things without permission would be seen as a failure of parenting. And Zethklar will want immediate consequences for the resource theft," Lisa added. "Then we need to present this as a cultural learning opportunity, not a disciplinary issue," Jake said. "These cubs aren't criminals. They're children trying to find their place in a new environment." Over the next few hours, Jake carefully reviewed all the surveillance footage. The cubs had been incredibly thorough in their work. Every piece of human equipment they touched was returned in better condition than they had found it. Their theft of supplies was actually resulting in improved maintenance for critical station equipment. "You know what's really impressive?" Lisa said, reviewing the footage with him. "Their technique. These cubs are naturally gifted at equipment maintenance. Look at how Kirish adjusted the tension on Pete's wrench set. I couldn't have done it better myself." "They're observant too," Jake noted. See how they identified exactly which items belong to which humans? They never mixed up anyone's equipment. And they somehow figured out personal preferences, Lisa continued. Amy likes her tools arranged by size. Pete prefers them organized by function. The Cubs got both systems exactly right. By morning, Jake had a full report prepared. The mystery of the missing supplies was solved, but the larger question remained. How could they honor the Cubs' cultural needs while maintaining proper station protocols? As the day shift began, Jake watched Pete Williams discover his newly maintained toolkit. The man's face lit up with surprise and pleasure. In the corridor, Jake caught a glimpse of Kirish watching from around a corner, her large eyes bright with satisfaction at Pete's reaction. The Cubs had found a way to give gifts that genuinely helped their chosen pack. Now the adults had to find a way to accept those gifts properly, in a manner that honored both human and Kithaeran values. It was going to require careful diplomacy, cultural sensitivity, and probably some creative rule interpretation. In other words, it was exactly the kind of challenge that humans were uniquely suited to handle. The meeting room felt tense as Jake laid out the surveillance footage for the assembled group. Quartermaster Zethklar sat rigid in his chair, his crystalline skin showing deep red stress patterns. Across from him, the Kithaeran family looked uncomfortable and confused. Nixisara and Veltar, the parent Kithaerans, kept their large ears pressed flat against their heads in a gesture of distress. Their 3 cubs sat between them, still not understanding why they had been called to this formal meeting. Kirash, the youngest, kept glancing nervously at the humans in the room. So you see, Jake concluded, finishing his explanation, the Cubs have been taking cleaning supplies to maintain human equipment as a form of gift-giving behavior. Zethklar's stress patterns deepened to an angry orange. Gift-giving does not excuse theft of station resources. These supplies are carefully rationed for specific purposes. Nixisara rose from her chair, her fur bristling with shame. Commander Murphy, we are deeply sorry for our Cubs' behavior. They have brought dishonor to our family and violated the hospitality of the station. Wait, Jake said quickly. Please, let's not jump to punishment. Kevin, can you explain the cultural significance of what the Cubs were doing? Dr. Kevin Torres cleared his throat and consulted his tablet. In Kithaeran society, Cubs demonstrate their value to potential pack leaders through careful service. It's an instinctual behavior that helps integrate families and build social bonds. Veltar spoke in a low, rumbling voice. On our homeworld, Cubs would polish stones and prepare food for elders they hoped would accept them. But we have no stones here, and humans do not eat our food. So they adapted, Kevin continued. They identified what humans value, equipment and tools, and found ways to care for those items using available materials. Zethklar clicked his claws against the table surface. Cultural significance does not change the fact that resources were taken without authorization. My duty is to maintain proper inventory control. Young Kirash suddenly spoke up in her small voice. We made the shiny tools happy. Humans smiled when they found them. Her mother quickly hushed her, but Jake leaned forward with interest. Kirish, can you tell me why you cleaned the tools? The cub looked between her parents and Jake. Tools were sad and dirty. We made them bright and good. Then humans would know we are good cubs too. You wanted the humans to accept you into their family group, Kevin said gently. Yes, human pack is strong and kind. They give food to our parents when we had no home. We want to help human pack too. Zethklar's patterns shifted slightly toward yellow, indicating confusion rather than anger. The cubs believed they were performing a necessary service? From their perspective, yes, Jake explained. They identified a need, equipment maintenance, and found a way to fulfill it using available resources. Lisa Carter, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. And honestly, they're really good at it. I've never seen such thorough equipment care. They understand machinery in ways that would take our apprentices months to learn. That's irrelevant, Zethklar insisted. Station protocol requires authorization for all resource usage. There are proper channels for requesting cleaning supplies. Nixisara's ears drooped further. Quartermaster Zethklar is correct. We will ensure the cubs understand proper procedures. They will be confined to quarters during night hours. No, Kirash suddenly cried out. We help. We make tools happy. Why no more help? Her brother Zachlin put a protective arm around her. We did good work. Human tools are better now. The third cub, Tiklar, looked directly at Jake. Human Jake, do you not want our gifts? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Jake realized this was the crucial moment. How he answered would determine whether this situation became a diplomatic incident or an opportunity for growth. Your gifts are wonderful, Jake said carefully. The humans are very impressed with your skill and dedication, but we need to find a proper way for you to give them. What do you mean? Veltar asked. Pete Williams, who had been invited to the meeting as one of the affected humans, raised his hand. Can I say something? My toolkit has never looked better. These cubs know what they're doing. If they want to help with maintenance, why not let them? Zethklar's stress patterns flared. Because proper procedures must be followed. We cannot have cubs wandering the station at night taking supplies without authorization. Then let's authorize it, Jake said suddenly. What if we create a formal program? The cubs could be assigned as junior maintenance assistants. Amy Foster, another affected human, nodded enthusiastically. That's brilliant. They clearly have natural talent. We could teach them proper procedures while giving them an official way to help. Absolutely not, Zethklar declared.
Station regulations clearly state minimum age requirements for all work assignments.
These cubs are far too young. Kevin consulted his tablet again. Actually, Section 15C allows for cultural apprenticeship programs under adult supervision. It was designed for species with different maturation rates. You're suggesting we bend regulations to accommodate theft? Zethklar asked incredulously. I'm suggesting we find a creative solution that honors both Kithran culture and station protocol, Jake replied. These cubs aren't criminals. They're children trying to contribute to their new community. Nixasara looked uncertain. Commander Murphy, while we appreciate your kindness, our cubs should not be working alongside adults. They are still learning proper behavior. In Kithran culture, are cubs expected to contribute to family survival? Jake asked. Well, yes. On our homeworld, cubs begin learning essential skills at a young age. Then this isn't work in the human sense. It's education. We would be teaching them proper maintenance procedures while allowing them to fulfill their cultural need to contribute. Veltar's ears perked up slightly. You would consider our cubs worthy of learning human techniques. They've already demonstrated exceptional aptitude, Lisa said. I'd be honored to have them as apprentices. Kiresh bounced in her chair. We learn human way. Make tools happy with permission? Jake looked around the room. The Kytheran parents seemed intrigued but cautious. The human crew members were clearly supportive. Only Zethklar remained firmly opposed. Quartermaster, what if we could make this program actually improve resource efficiency? Jake proposed. Better equipment maintenance means longer equipment life, which reduces replacement costs. And the cubs would have allocated supplies instead of having to scavenge, Lisa added. We could actually reduce waste. Zethklar's patterns shifted to contemplative blue. You believe this apprenticeship program could result in net resource savings? I'm certain of it, Jake said. Proper equipment maintenance is one of the most cost-effective investments we can make. The Vraxian was quiet for a long moment, his crystalline features reflecting the room's lighting as he processed the proposal. Finally, his stress patterns faded to a neutral gray. I would require detailed resource allocation plans and progress reports, he said slowly. And the cubs would need to demonstrate understanding of proper procedures before being given access to supplies. Nixazara looked at Jake with something approaching hope. You would truly welcome our cubs as apprentices. With proper supervision and training, yes. They've already shown they have the dedication and skill. Now we just need to channel that into proper procedures. Young Ticklar raised his hand tentatively. Human Jake, if we learn proper way, can we still help tools be happy? Jake smiled. That's exactly what we want you to do. Help tools be happy the right way. For the first time since the meeting began, Zethklar's pattern shifted to pale green, indicating cautious optimism. Very well. I will draft a preliminary resource allocation for a trial apprenticeship program, but the cubs must demonstrate complete adherence to proper procedures. They will, Nixazara promised. Our family is grateful for this opportunity. As the meeting concluded, Jake watched the cubs whisper excitedly among themselves. They didn't fully understand the bureaucratic details, but they understood the important part. They would be allowed to continue helping their chosen human pack, now with official permission and proper training. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was a human solution. Instead of simply forbidding the behavior or punishing the cubs, they had found a way to honor cultural needs while maintaining necessary protocols. The cubs would get their apprenticeship, the humans would get better equipment maintenance, and Zethklar would get his proper procedures. Most importantly, 3 young refugees would continue to feel valued and included in their new home among the stars. The first week of the apprenticeship program did not go smoothly. Despite their enthusiasm, the Kitharin cubs struggled with the concept of formal training. They had spent weeks developing their own secret methods, and now the humans wanted them to learn completely different procedures. Kirish sat in the maintenance workshop, her large ears drooping with frustration as Amy Foster tried to explain proper tool organization. "But I already know how to make tools happy," Kirish protested. "Why must I learn human way when my way works?" Amy knelt down to the cub's eye level. "Your way does work, and it's very good. But there are safety rules and efficiency standards that help protect everyone on the station. Human tools were not hurt by my cleaning," Kirish argued. They were more happy than before. "You're absolutely right," Amy agreed patiently. "But what if you accidentally mix cleaning chemicals that don't work well together? Or what if you used a tool for something it wasn't designed for? The rules help prevent accidents." Across the workshop, her brother Zachlin was having his own difficulties with Pete Williams. The older cub had been assigned to learn about power tool maintenance, but he kept trying to work faster than the safety procedures allowed. "Zachlin, slow down," Pete said for the 4th time. "You need to disconnect the power source before removing the access panel." "But it is faster to work with power on," Zachlin replied. "I have done this many times without problems." "Once is all it takes to get seriously hurt," Pete explained. "These tools have enough power to injure you permanently." The youngest cub, Tikalar, was working with Lisa Carter on basic equipment inspection. Unlike his siblings, he seemed to grasp the importance of following procedures, but he had a different problem. "Chief Carter, what if humans decide they do not need our help anymore?" he asked quietly. Lisa looked up from the diagnostic tablet she was showing him. "What do you mean? If we must follow all these rules, maybe our help is not special anymore. Maybe humans think we are just small and slow." The question caught Lisa off guard. She realized that the cubs' confidence in their value to the human crew was tied to their unique methods. By teaching them standard procedures, the humans might accidentally be making the cubs feel replaceable. That evening, Jake called a meeting with the human supervisors to discuss the problems they were encountering. "They're not just learning new techniques," Kevin Torres explained. "They're being asked to abandon methods that they developed independently and that they're proud of. Plus, their parents are putting pressure on them," Amy added. Nick Cesara told Kirish that she must follow human rules exactly or bring shame to the family. "And Zethklar has been checking their work every day," Pete said. "The cubs are afraid that any mistake will end the program." Jake rubbed his temples. Creating a bridge between cultures was proving more complex than he had anticipated. The cubs felt like they were losing their identity while trying to conform to human expectations. The parents were worried about cultural integration. The quartermaster was focused on compliance and efficiency. "What if we're approaching this wrong?" Lisa suggested. "Instead of teaching them our methods, what if we learned from their methods and created something new together?" "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "Well, Kirish has a technique for polishing metal that creates a protective coating I've never seen before. Zachlin can diagnose power tool problems by sound alone. Tiklar notices equipment wear patterns that our standard inspections miss. You think we should be learning from them as much as teaching them?" Pete said. "Exactly. Make it a real exchange, not just compliance training." Jake felt a spark of excitement. That could work. Instead of trying to replace their methods, we help them adapt their methods to meet safety standards. The next morning, Jake announced a change in the program structure. Instead of formal lessons, the cubs would work alongside their human partners on real maintenance tasks. The humans would learn the cubs' techniques while ensuring safety protocols were followed. The change in atmosphere was immediate. When Kirish showed Amy her metal polishing technique, Amy was genuinely impressed. "This coating you create, how do you make it so even?" Amy asked, examining a wrench that gleamed with an almost mirror finish. "The polishing cloth must move in small circles, always the same size," Kirish explained proudly. "And the cleaning liquid must be exactly the right temperature." "How do you know the right temperature?" Kirish held up a small finger. "I touch it. When it feels like warm fur, it is perfect," Amy smiled. "That's actually very precise. Let me show you a temperature gauge that can help you get that same warmth every time." even with different liquids. Instead of abandoning her technique, Kirish was learning to enhance it with human tools. Her confidence returned, and she began asking questions about why. Different metals required different polishing, methods Zachlin was making similar progress with Pete. When the cub demonstrated his ability to diagnose problems by listening to power tools, Pete was amazed. "You can tell all that just from the sound?" Pete asked after Zachlin correctly identified a worn bearing in a drill. "Each tool has its own voice," Zachlin explained. "When something is wrong, the voice changes. This drill sounds sad because its spinning part is tired." "That's an incredibly sophisticated understanding of mechanical stress," Pete said. "What if I taught you about the internal components? Then you could predict problems before they happen." Zachlin's eyes brightened. "I could make tools happy before they become sad?" "Exactly. Preventive maintenance is one of the most important skills in engineering." Tickler was developing his own special role with Lisa. His ability to notice subtle equipment problems had caught the attention of Dr. Torres, who realized the cub's observational skills could be valuable for research equipment maintenance. "Ticklar, you mentioned that the atmospheric processor sounds different today," Kevin said during one of their sessions. "Can you describe what you're hearing?" The young cub tilted his head, listening carefully. "It breathes too fast, like when we are nervous. And there is a small clicking that was not there yesterday." Kevin checked the diagnostic readings. Sure enough, the processor was running at slightly higher than normal cycle rates, and there was a minor valve irregularity that the standard sensors hadn't detected yet. "Your hearing is much more sensitive than our monitoring equipment," Kevin told him. "Would you be interested in helping us develop better diagnostic techniques?" As the cubs gained confidence and the humans learned to value their unique abilities, even Zethklar began to acknowledge the program's success. His daily inspections revealed that equipment maintained by the human cub teams was performing significantly better than equipment maintained by standard procedures alone. The cub's attention to detail is remarkable, he admitted to Jake during one of their weekly progress meetings. "Their maintenance extends equipment life beyond our normal projections." "They care about the equipment in a way that's hard to replicate," Jake agreed. "To them, tools aren't just objects. They're almost like living things that deserve respect and care." The breakthrough moment came when the cubs taught Amy Foster a new method for cleaning sensor arrays. Their technique removed microscopic debris that standard cleaning missed, improving sensor accuracy by 12%. "This is significant enough to recommend for station-wide implementation," Zethklar said, reviewing the test results. "The cubs have developed a superior procedure." That evening, Jake found the three cubs in the workshop with their human partners, working together on a complex pump maintenance project. The formal teacher-student dynamic had evolved into something more collaborative. Humans and cubs were learning from each other, creating hybrid techniques that combined the best of both approaches. Kirish was carefully applying her polishing technique to pump components while Amy monitored safety protocols. Zachlin was teaching Pete to identify subtle sound variations, while Pete explained the mechanical principles behind the sounds. Tickler was documenting inspection procedures with Lisa, creating a new protocol that combined human systematization with Catherine intuition. Nixazara and Veltar visited the workshop regularly now, watching their cubs work alongside the humans with obvious pride. The parents had stopped worrying about cultural integration and started appreciating how their cubs were contributing to their new community. "Commander Murphy," Nixazara said one evening, "our cubs come home each day full of excitement about their work. They feel valuable and respected." "They are valuable and respected," Jake replied. "They're teaching us as much as we're teaching them." The apprenticeship program was becoming something neither humans nor Kithrans had expected, a genuine partnership that honored both cultures while creating something entirely new. The cubs maintained their cultural need to contribute and care for their pack, while learning skills and safety procedures that would serve them well as they grew older. Most importantly, they had found their place in the station community, not by abandoning their identity, but by sharing it with others who appreciated what made them special. 6 months after the apprenticeship program began, Harmony Base looked very different. The equipment hummed more quietly. Tools lasted longer between replacements, and diagnostic systems caught problems days earlier than before. Most remarkably, other species on the station had begun requesting training from the human Catheran maintenance teams. Jake stood in the observation deck, watching through the transparent aluminum, as a diplomatic transport approached the station. Inside that ship was Admiral Sarah Mitchell, the sector commander responsible for evaluating multi-species cooperation programs. Her report would determine whether the apprenticeship program would be expanded to other stations throughout the sector. Nervous? Lisa Carter asked, joining him at the observation window. A little, Jake admitted. This program means a lot to those cubs. And honestly, it's changed how we think about cross-species cooperation. Down in the main maintenance bay, the cubs were preparing for the Admiral's inspection. Kirash, now wearing a specially tailored junior maintenance uniform, was carefully arranging her tools with the precision she had always possessed, but now enhanced with proper safety procedures. At 10 years old by human standards, she had become the station's expert on delicate instrument maintenance. Zachlin was testing power tools with the methodical approach he had learned from Pete Williams, but his diagnostic technique remained uniquely his own. He could identify worn components before standard testing equipment detected problems, saving the station thousands of credits in emergency repairs. Tiklar had developed into something unexpected. A research assistant whose observational skills had helped Kevin Torres publish 3 papers on equipment performance optimization. The young cub's ability to notice subtle changes in system behavior had prevented 2 potential equipment failures that could have endangered the entire station. Commander Murphy, Quartermaster Zethklar's voice came through the communication system. Admiral Mitchell's transport is requesting priority docking. Understood. I'll meet her at the airlock. Admiral Mitchell was a stern woman with silver hair and sharp blue eyes that seemed to take in every detail of the station as Jake escorted her through the corridors. She carried a tablet filled with efficiency reports and budget analyses, but Jake knew she was also evaluating the more intangible aspects of station morale and cooperation. I've read the reports, she said as they walked. Significant improvements in equipment performance, reduced maintenance costs, and enhanced diagnostic capabilities. Impressive numbers, Commander. The Cubs have exceeded every expectation, Jake replied. But the real success is how the program has affected station-wide cooperation. They entered the main maintenance bay where the human Kithrin teams were working on the weekly equipment maintenance cycle. What struck Jake, as it always did, was how natural the collaboration had become. Amy Foster and Kirish worked together on sensor array maintenance without needing to discuss their process. Pete Williams consulted with Zachlin about power tool diagnostics, like asking a valued colleague for advice. Lisa Carter and Tickler reviewed inspection protocols with the easy familiarity of partners who had developed their own professional language. Impressive, Admiral Mitchell murmured, watching Kirish demonstrate her metal polishing technique to a visiting Altarian engineer. How did you handle the initial cultural resistance? We didn't try to eliminate it, Jake explained. We found ways to honor both cultures while creating something new. Dr. Kevin Torres approached with his latest research data. Admiral Mitchell, I wanted to share some findings about cross-species skill transfer. The Cubs haven't just learned human techniques. They've taught us approaches that we're now implementing throughout the sector, such as Kirish's polishing method has been adopted by 12 other stations. Zachlin's diagnostic technique is being studied at the Engineering Academy, and Ticklar's observation protocols have identified potential problems on stations that haven't had equipment failures in years. Admiral Mitchell reviewed the data on Kevin's tablet. These improvements are being replicated elsewhere? The Cubs developed techniques that work across species and environments, Kevin confirmed. Their methods are so effective that we're creating standardized training programs based on their innovations. As they continued the tour, Jake noticed that Nixazara and Veltar were watching from the observation area. The Kithrin parents had initially worried that their cubs were losing their cultural identity. Instead, they had discovered that their children were sharing their culture with others while growing into respected members of the station community. The family integration has been remarkable, Jake told Admiral Mitchell. The adult Kithrins have started contributing to station operations as well. Nixazara is working with our agricultural systems, and Veltar has joined the security rotation. They found their place by watching their cubs find theirs, the Admiral observed. The inspection continued through several departments. In each area, Admiral Mitchell saw evidence of the program's impact. Equipment functioned more reliably, maintenance schedules were more efficient, and cooperation between species had improved measurably. But the moment that seemed to make the greatest impression came when they visited the workshop where the Cubs were training 2 new apprentices. young Altarians whose families had recently joined the station. Kirish was patiently showing the newcomers how to properly care for precision instruments. Her teaching style combined the careful attention to detail she had always possessed with the systematic approach she had learned from humans. Tools are like friends, she explained to the Altarian youngsters. They work better when they feel cared for. But you must also follow safety rules to keep everyone safe. Admiral Mitchell watched quietly as the young Cathrin taught maintenance techniques to aliens from a completely different world. The cultural exchange had expanded beyond humans and Kytherans to include other species seeking the specialized skills the Cubs had developed. How many apprentices are in the program now? The Admiral asked. 8, Jake replied. 3 Catharans, 2 Altarians, 2 Vraxians, and 1 human child whose family recently transferred here. The Cubs are teaching other species? They're natural teachers, and they understand what it's like to be young and trying to contribute to adult work. The other species' children relate to them in ways they don't always relate to adult instructors. That evening, the station held its monthly Gear Day celebration. The tradition had evolved from the Cubs' original gift-giving behavior into a station-wide event where all departments demonstrated their equipment and shared maintenance techniques. Admiral Mitchell watched as crew members from 6 different species gathered in the main assembly area. Each department had prepared displays showing their equipment and the techniques they used to maintain it. But the highlight was always the demonstrations by the apprentice program. Kirish showed the crowd how proper polishing could extend tool life by 30%. Zachlin demonstrated diagnostic techniques that could predict equipment failures weeks in advance. Tiklar presented inspection protocols that had prevented 12 potential system failures in the past 6 months. These innovations came from Cubs who started by sneaking around at night with stolen cleaning supplies, Admiral Mitchell said to Jake. They had the right instincts from the beginning, Jake replied. They wanted to contribute to their pack. We just helped them find the proper way to do it. During the celebration, Jake noticed something that made him smile. Pete Williams was teaching Kirish's polishing technique to a group of engineering students who had come to the station for training. Amy Foster was explaining Zachlin's diagnostic methods to maintenance crews from 3 other departments. Lisa Carter was presenting Tiklar's observation protocols to a committee evaluating station-wide safety improvements. The Cubs' techniques had not only been accepted by the station community, they had become integral to how the station operated. What had started as secret midnight gift-giving had evolved into essential skills that other stations were requesting to learn. Admiral Mitchell approached the Cubs during the celebration. I understand you 3 started this program by maintaining human equipment without permission. Kirish nodded seriously. We wanted to help our new pack, but we did not know proper procedures. And now you're teaching proper procedures to others? We learned human safety rules, Zachlin explained. Now we can help tools be happy and keep everyone safe. The tools are still happy? Admiral Mitchell asked with a slight smile. Tickler's eyes brightened. Tools are very happy now. And we are happy too because we help whole station family. The next morning, Admiral Mitchell delivered her evaluation to Jake in his office. Her report tablet showed green approval indicators across every category. Commander Murphy, I'm recommending the apprenticeship program for immediate expansion to all stations in the sector. The efficiency improvements alone justify the resource allocation, but the cultural integration benefits are equally valuable. The Cubs will be excited to hear that other young Catharans will have similar opportunities. It's not just Catharans, Admiral Mitchell said. Based on what I've observed, this program could work with any species that has young individuals wanting to contribute to their communities. You've created a